Everything you know about human history is a lie? Imagine standing in the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia. The year is 1938. The hot desert wind whips sand against your face as you unearth a simple clay jar. But this isn't just any artifact. Inside this unassuming vessel lies evidence so shocking, so utterly impossible, that it threatens to demolish our entire understanding of human technological evolution. What you're looking at could be the world's first battery, created over 2,000 years before modern science said it was possible. Let that sink in. Electricity, in ancient Baghdad, when the rest of the world was still using fire for light. Before we continue, I need to warn you. What you're about to see might forever change how you view human history. If you're comfortable with your current worldview, this might not be the video for you. Still here? Good, because we're about to peel back the veil on one of history's most controversial artifacts and potentially expose a truth that academic institutions have been dismissing for nearly a century. Imagine living in a world where electricity wasn't just unknown, it was unimaginable, where fire, water, and wind were the only forces humans knew how to harness. This was the world of ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, where the first cities rose between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers over 6,000 years ago. But what if, hidden within this ancient landscape, a select few had discovered a power that would remain unknown to the rest of the world for another 2 millennia? I'm talking about electricity, the invisible force that powers our modern world. The force that our history books tell us wasn't harnessed until the late 1700s, when scientists like Luigi Galvani and Alessandro Volta conducted their groundbreaking experiments. But what if those history books are wrong? The story begins with one man, Wilhelm König, a German archaeologist working at the Iraq Museum in Baghdad. The year was 1938, a time when much of Iraq's archaeological treasures were still being unearthed and catalogued. König was examining artifacts discovered at Kujut Rabu, an ancient Parthian site just outside Baghdad. Among dusty pottery and commonplace tools, he found something that stopped him in his tracks: a peculiar clay vessel sealed with bitumen asphalt. But it wasn't the jar itself that shocked him, it was what was inside. The vessel contained a copper cylinder surrounding an iron rod. The rod was held in place by the asphalt seal, which also served to insulate the metals from each other. König was no fool. He had scientific training, and what he was looking at bore an uncanny resemblance to a galvanic cell, a basic form of battery. But that was impossible. These artifacts dated back to the Parthian period, roughly 250 BC to 224 AD. That would make them over 1,800 years older than Alessandro Volta's battery, invented in 1800. König must have questioned his own sanity. Could ancient peoples have discovered electricity? And if so, why hadn't this knowledge spread? Why did it seemingly disappear for nearly 2 millennia? In 1940, König published his findings in a paper titled The Parthian Battery. His conclusion was explosive. These artifacts weren't just jars. They were deliberately constructed electrical devices. The archaeological community was thrown into chaos. Some dismissed König outright, calling his conclusions absurd. Others were intrigued but skeptical. A few were convinced he was onto something revolutionary. But World War II erupted, and König's discovery was largely forgotten amid global conflict. When peace finally returned, most scientists had moved on to other mysteries. The Baghdad Battery became a footnote, an oddity mentioned in passing, then dismissed. But the story doesn't end there, because some questions refuse to be buried. Fast forward to 1970s. A new generation of researchers had begun asking questions about the Baghdad Battery, and they weren't content with theoretical debates. They wanted proof. Dr. Arne Eggebrecht, director of the Romer and Pelagius Museum in Germany, constructed a replica of the Baghdad Battery. He filled it with grape juice, a readily available acid in the ancient world. What happened next sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The replica produced electricity, approximately 0.8 to 1.1 volts. Let me repeat that. A reconstructed ancient device from over 2,000 years ago produced electricity, about half the voltage of a modern AA battery. But here's where the story becomes truly mind-bending. If the ancient Mesopotamians had discovered electricity, what were they using it for? The most compelling theory involves an ancient art form that has confounded modern scientists: electroplating. Archaeologists have discovered ancient items with layers of gold so thin, sometimes just a few atoms thick, that they've been unable to explain how such precision metalwork was achieved with ancient technology. Unless they had electricity. Electroplating uses electrical current to bind one metal onto the surface of another. It creates a coating far thinner and more uniform than any mechanical application method. In 1978, Dr. Egebrecht connected 10 replica Baghdad batteries in series and successfully electroplated a silver figurine with gold. The layer was microscopically thin but unmistakably present. Think about the implications. If true, this would mean ancient peoples weren't just aware of electricity. They were harnessing it for practical applications. But here's where the controversy ignites. Because accepting the Baghdad Battery as an actual battery means rewriting history. It means admitting that an advanced technology was discovered, used, and then somehow lost for nearly 2,000 years. Many traditional archaeologists refuse to accept this possibility. They've proposed alternative theories. Perhaps these jars were used to store sacred scrolls, or maybe they were simple containers for papyrus. But these explanations fail to address a crucial question. Why the specific arrangement of copper and iron? Why the asphalt seal that perfectly insulates the metals? This wasn't random. It was deliberate engineering. The Baghdad Battery controversy reveals something profound about how we approach history. We like our timelines neat and progressive, a straight line from primitive to advanced. The idea that advanced knowledge could be discovered, used, and then lost doesn't fit our comfortable narrative of steady human advancement. But history isn't a straight line. It's filled with dead ends, forgotten innovations, and lost knowledge. The burning of the Library of Alexandria, the fall of Rome, the collapse of Mayan civilization. These weren't just political events, they were catastrophic losses of accumulated human knowledge. And perhaps, hidden within these collapses, we lost the secret of ancient electricity. But the mystery deepens even further, because the Baghdad Battery isn't alone. Similar artifacts have been discovered throughout the region. And here's the truly bizarre part. Some were found in Parthian territories, while others were discovered in regions controlled by the Sasanians, bitter enemies who had minimal cultural exchange. This suggests the technology wasn't isolated, it had spread. But if this technology was spreading, why do we find no written records describing it? No ancient texts explaining electrical principles? No diagrams or instructions? This silence is perhaps the strongest argument against the battery theory. Surely such a revolutionary technology would have been documented somewhere. Unless this knowledge was deliberately restricted. Throughout history, powerful technologies have often been controlled by elite groups, priests, rulers, specialized craftsmen. They become closely guarded secrets, giving their possessors tremendous advantages. From the Damascus steel of ancient sword makers to the porcelain secrets of medieval China, technological advantages have been jealously protected. Could electricity have been one such secret technology? A power literally kept in the hands of the few? Imagine the power you would wield if you alone could make metal objects glow with an otherworldly light. if you alone could turn copper into gold through a process that seemed like magic? This wouldn't just be technology, it would be power, divine power. But there's another possibility, one that's even more controversial. What if the Baghdad Battery wasn't a Mesopotamian invention at all? Some researchers, those operating outside traditional academia, have proposed that these batteries might be evidence of knowledge transferred from a more advanced civilization. While mainstream archaeology dismisses such theories outright, the Baghdad Battery reminds us that our ancestors were capable of technological innovations we've never given them credit for. The truth likely lies somewhere in the middle. Human ingenuity has always been underestimated, and the Baghdad Battery may simply be evidence of that ingenuity at work. In recent years, scientific analysis has provided new insights. X-ray fluorescence testing has confirmed the composition of the metals. Electron microscopy has revealed microscopic evidence consistent with electrochemical reactions. But the most compelling evidence comes from the batteries themselves. When multiple replicas are connected in series, they can produce up to 4 to 5 volts, enough to power small modern LEDs. Imagine what ancient peoples would have thought of such light, produced without flame, without heat, glowing with an unworldly constancy. It would have seemed divine. Today, excavations continue throughout Iraq. Despite decades of war and political instability, archaeologists persist in their search for truth. And with each new discovery, the Baghdad Battery controversy either inches closer to resolution or deeper into mystery. In 2022, a new find at Ctesiphon, an ancient Parthian and Sasanian capital, unearthed similar jars with even more sophisticated internal components. Analysis is ongoing, but preliminary results suggest they may have been capable of producing even higher voltages. The implications are staggering. If these are indeed ancient batteries, they force us to completely rethink the technological capabilities of ancient civilizations. Suddenly, other archaeological mysteries take on new dimensions. How did the Egyptians illuminate the inside of pyramids during construction, with no evidence of soot from torches or lamps? How did ancient surgeons perform delicate procedures in dimly lit conditions? How did ancient craftsmen drill perfectly circular holes through granite without modern power tools? The Baghdad Battery doesn't just change how we view ancient Mesopotamia, it potentially rewrites technological history across multiple civilizations. Today, one of the original Baghdad batteries sits in the National Museum of Iraq. Visitors pass by it, often unaware of its potentially revolutionary significance. Meanwhile, academics continue to debate, mainstream science remains skeptical, and alternative researchers keep pushing for recognition of what they see as obvious. Our ancestors were far more technologically advanced than we've given them credit for. But perhaps the most important lesson of the Baghdad Battery isn't about ancient electricity at all. Perhaps it's about our own arrogance, our assumption that technological progress moves in only one direction, that knowledge once gained can never be lost, that we are inherently more advanced than those who came before us. History tells a different story. It shows us that human knowledge ebbs and flows, that civilizations rise and fall, that technologies can be discovered, used, and then vanish for millennia. So the next time you flick a light switch or charge your phone, remember the Baghdad Battery. Remember that over 2,000 years ago, someone may have harnessed the same force that powers our modern world. And ask yourself, what other ancient technologies might be hiding in plain sight, waiting to be rediscovered? What if electricity wasn't discovered in the modern era at all? What if it was rediscovered? And most importantly, what else might we have forgotten? This is just the beginning of our journey into forgotten ancient technologies. In our next episode, we'll explore the mysterious precision of ancient stonework, cuts and drill holes so perfect they challenge the capabilities of even modern machinery. If you found this video mind-blowing, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Share this with someone whose worldview needs shaking up. And tell me in the comments, do you believe the Baghdad Battery was real? Or is there another explanation? The truth is out there, buried beneath centuries of sand and skepticism. And together, we're going to uncover it, one artifact at a time.